Well, it may not seem like an overly impressive win against the Dallas Cowboys, but today was a big day for Jalen Hurts. We'll tell you why on the Locked On Eagles postgame show coming up next.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. It's the postgame show. The Eagles blow out the Dallas Cowboys 34-6 to improve to 7-2, a 5-game win streak. We got you covered right here on Locked On Eagles, and we're brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use our code in all lowercases LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. So, Gino, again, the Dallas Cowboys, they're dead in the water. Cooper Rush is playing today. Even Trey Lance is getting some action. This game was over in the third quarter. It might not seem overly impressive. And Washington week, next week, Thursday night, that's the game that we're all focused on. That's the battle for the East at this point, 7-2 versus 7-3. But I do think this was a really big win for Jalen Hurts specifically, because when you look at what was happening early on, how the Cowboys were daring him to beat them as a passer. They were stacking the box, trying to take away Saquon Barkley. They had a ton of different pressure looks. And it was working. 2 turnovers in the red zone and in their own territory were because of this. But Hurts overcame it, and eventually he made them pay for pressuring him. Those touchdowns of Dallas Goedert and Johnny Wilson, that showed tremendous growth in an area that's kind of been Hurts' Achilles heel over the last 3 years. And I think that was a big step in the right direction. That's a big area that Jalen needs to work on. And I really liked seeing him battle through that today.
Today was another quintessential Jalen Hurts does not let things avalanche downhill.
Great point.
When he has a couple things go awry. If you look at his numbers, Lou, in the first half, what was he, 11 of 13? His only missed throw in the red zone was that play that Trevon Diggs makes a fantastic interception. Still probably should have hit the wide open Grant Calcaterra where Trevon Diggs is in conflict. He goes with Goddard. All of a sudden, Calcaterra is wide open. Maybe if Goddard runs that post, maybe a little flatter rather than skinnier, it could have gone a different way. But to end the game, Lou, with another outing of plus 18.2 completion percentage over expected, where he continues to throw in tight windows, throw on time, and when it's not just drop back, pass, hit the same landmark, throw the ball on time every single time on the same number of steps on your drop back, Jalen Hurts is able to do some wonderful things. Dallas took advantage of that early on, where it looked like Kellen Moore was calling a lot of the same plays, trying to push the ball downfield. It took a lot to develop. Micah Parsons' instant impact. But when they settled in, Jalen Hurts started to keep his eyes downfield, Lou. When he can maneuver the pocket with his eyes down the field, that's where the touchdowns to Johnny Wilson come into play. That's where the big-time throws come into play, because we say this all the time, he is the Hulk, good and for worse. And when he is as good as he was in moments today, you have to allow him to get better from those mistakes. And he, more than any quarterback that I can remember for the Philadelphia Eagles, is one that gets better when he makes these mistakes. It's frankly impressive that he can make that turnover in the red zone,
which was terrible.
Awful decision. The fumble close to Dallas's territory. Your defense bails you out once again, but to put up 30-plus points.
Yeah, to finish with the numbers that he did, Gino.
They crushed it, man. They dominated them all day.
14 of 20, 202 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. He had 7 carries for 56 yards and 2 more scores on the ground. Yeah, it was impressive because he did not look good early on. He was holding onto the football way too long. He was dropping his eyes when the pocket was collapsing. The touchdown, Diggs made a great play, and like you said, Calcaterra was open. I thought with anticipation, Goddard would have scored a touchdown there, and that's been a problem of Jalen, is he doesn't see things develop before the play is open at times. But again, to see him again evade pressure, keep his eyes downfield, and throw across his body for 2 touchdowns, that's something that I think early on in the year, we kind of were challenging or hoping that he would do more of this year, just be more decisive with when to run to open up the pass. And Dallas was kind of disrespecting him in a way because he wasn't doing that early on, and he pushed them back. Like with those plays, I thought he was decisive with some other quick game plays and the deep ball to A.J. Brown. He eventually made them pay for not respecting his ability to pass, and I thought that was, again, really impressive because that's normally a weakness of his.
I'll even challenge you on the aspect of him not throwing with anticipation, because I think the best throw he had all day was that sideline shot to A.J. Brown where there is safety help.
That's fair.
Threw that thing so early.
I think normally, though, in Jalen's career, he's not an anticipation thrower. I think that's fair.
Coming into this game, it felt like the first 15 to 18 minutes or so, they were focused on Washington. Yeah. To a degree that they were ready to get to next week. And then they're like, oh, no, we have to go and win this football
And that's what
game.
happened last week against Jacksonville, Gino. So it was great to see them kind of snap out of that and completely blow the doors off a team that had no business being in the game.
In 2 quarters.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
If you look at it, the first quarter, it was up and down. All of a sudden, second and third quarter, they kind of lock in, and most of it was in the third because the second was an absolute disaster. I mean, I take back that statement. The second was where it was a disaster all in all. After the second quarter hits, Jalen Hurts throws it into the end zone. You literally tweeted, oh, Jalen Hurts looks great. He's in command. And then boom, all of a sudden he throws that interception. The DiBiase jinx is at an all-time high.
It's been bad this year, man.
It really has been. But what has been good is Jalen Hurts since the bye week. He's had 1 interception since the bye week. That's okay. He's had 1 fumble since the bye week. That's okay. Because in aggregate, he's been really good since the bye week, taking care of the football. And if there was a game to avoid or to have some of those mistakes and avoid it being the downfall of your football team, it was against the Dallas Cowboys that it took just, a quarter and a half to really put them to bed. And when your defense is playing lights out, man. 3 out of the last 5 games since
they kept you in it early.
They have not allowed a touchdown. That's contextually fantastic for the Eagles in terms of their history, how good they have been in the last 5 games.
And Gino, this game, I don't want to say could have got out of hand early on, but the defense kept you alive. They had the
Dallas
ball.
Could have stayed in it. It could have been way closer for sure.
Back-to-back drives, they had the ball on the goal line, and it only resulted in 3 points. That's crazy impressive. And they gave Jalen time, and not just Jalen, but Kellen Moore time to figure out the pressure looks, because it wasn't just on Jalen. I still think, again, when the answer isn't Hurts getting outside the pocket and evading the pressure, when pressure is forcing him to stay inside the pocket, he and Kellen Moore, that's where they're still struggling to find answers. And I still think there were way too many times today where Hurts couldn't get outside the pocket, and the routes were just way too deep. They were way too vertical, and there weren't enough quick answers. I think eventually as the game went on, they got better at that. But that was something I still thought was a problem early on. It's finding answers against pressure, against different blitz looks, when Hurts can't evade and get outside the numbers. That's still something I really want to see them work on.
And you were right on with the route distribution being downfield ad nauseum. It was insane early on. Next Gen Stats has Jalen Hurts air yards to the stick. So this is measuring how often he's throwing that 10 yards.
Right.
He was the highest in the NFL at 4.6. The next closest was Russell Wilson at 2.9. So contextually, it is all or nothing for this Eagles offense. And I'm with you. Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni really need to figure out this intermediate to short passing game, because the times that they were able to do that, and it was few and far between, but A.J. Brown on a quick slant across the middle, he's able to just get that ball, go for another 10, 15 yards after the catch. And that just helps Jalen Hurts get into a rhythm where he was able to do that in the second half of the game, where in the first half, Lou, he can't find those guys coming open, so he drops his eyes, and that's when he gets sacked. But when he's able to maneuver the pocket, and those routes are distributed evenly, and he's able to evade pressure, he's able to have those plays where he throws it back across his body to A.J. Brown. He's able to sit in the pocket, find A.J. Brown deep on the outside. Even the smart play to get that pass interference to Devontae Smith, even though maybe if he had a fraction of a second more, he probably could have put that in for 6. But all in all, pushing the ball down the field is efficient when it hits. But there's other areas of the field that this Eagles offense needs to focus on. And that goes into your offensive coordinator for sure. I thought Kellen Moore coming into this game with a depleted Dallas team and going against a guy that you should know a lot about in Mike McCarthy. Why did you not anticipate that they were going to be blitzing early and often?
And Dallas says,
come on.
They're on their last legs, so of course they're going to be aggressive in this game. But they have a backup quarterback. The defense needs to win them a game. I wish they would have had a better plan, but it was awesome seeing
3 seconds to throw today for Jalen Hurts. It cannot happen. No, cannot happen.
But again, Hurts did battle back. I mean, he made some incredible throws. The 2 touchdowns to Wilson and Goddard were great on the move, getting outside the pocket from pressure. The Brown deep ball on the right sidelines. Gino, I love that back shoulder throw to Jahan Dotson early in the game too.
He's trusting his boy now, man.
Yeah,
he's
Dotson,
earning that trust.
Back-to-back weeks making plays. He has 2+ rushing touchdowns in 3 straight games. I mean, that counter read is working every single week. So,
dude, we mentioned that on the show this week.
Love
that play is a killer. And you have to have the read element to it because you have to put that guy in conflict. You can't just run that draw there because if you run the draw, you read your guard, you know where it's going. You have to run it with that read. It's beautiful, dude. They're really cooking up things in the red zone. And when they were there today, Lou, I mentioned on the crossover with Marcus, they have to be efficient in that red zone area. Outside of the turnover, they were cashing in for points every single time. They were money today.
And it resulted in 34 points, 34-6 the final score. The Eagles are now in first place in the NFC East, alone in first at 7-2. The Commanders are 7-3 with a big week looming Thursday Night Football between the Eagles and Commanders. We'll take a look at that matchup to wrap up the show in a little bit. But, Gino, before that, I want to talk about this defense. They dominated today. And we'll get into that coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. This episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why we've created the Stand the Fan 5-Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like you, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. You know what else gave me a bit of Eagles fan fuel this week? The moment when today Quinyon Mitchell had 2 big-time pass breakups. Love seeing the rookie corner go up, high point the ball, knock it down. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5-Hour Energy Shot is here to help you keep yourself fueled throughout the season. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. What's your fan fuel? Check it out today. Thanks so much for sponsoring the Locked On Eagles podcast.
We're also brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. It's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions, yes, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. If you don't know what Prize Picks is by now, all you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. And if you're rocking with the Eagles, I can just about guarantee you that you're having some fun over at Prize Picks. And if you haven't signed up yet, get in on the action today, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. And all week long, Prize Picks is offering up some promotions, such as Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts selected player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's one Abraham Lincoln, and you will get $50 instantly when you use code LOCKEDONNFL. Prize Picks, run your game.
34-6, the final score. The Eagles blow out the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. This was the first win the Eagles have had in Jerry World since the Super Bowl season of 2017. Just no luck there in that building for years.
Vibes. Feels
the vibes
good.
are different now. And Gino, again, this should have been the result against Cooper Rush and a dead-in-the-water Dallas Cowboys football team. But I'm so thrilled to see this Eagles defense continue to force takeaways. Yet again, multiple takeaways today. They had 5 on the day. 3 weeks in a row, they've had 3+ turnovers. They actually lead the league in points off turnovers the last 3 weeks with 33. And they weren't getting that the last year and a half. So to see, Zack Baun with 2 forced fumbles, Bryce Huff get an awesome strip sack, got the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson pick, Milton Williams recovered a fumble early in this game. It's giving an already historically talented offense short fields. And if that's going to happen the rest of the year, it's going to be nearly impossible to stop this football team.
It's very similar. And I mean very similar to how they had success in 2022.
Yeah, and you didn't get that last year, man. And it was a huge reason for the regression.
They were in short field situations. Mm-hmm. The Eagles' offense was lethal in the red zone, and that's the combination that allowed them in 2022 to have as much success as they did. But in my opinion, Lou, even though the sack numbers aren't what they were of 2022,
yeah,
this Eagles defense in 2024, it feels a little bit different to where they are pitching shutouts. They are not allowing teams
it's the
get
secondary
into their end zone.
I think the secondary is
secondary. That is the difference.
It's elite.
It truly is.
I mean, Quinyon Mitchell just lockdown. I know he's not going to win it, but he to me is the rookie of the year. 2 incredible passes defended again. CeeDee Lamb just couldn't do anything, not just on him, but whether he was lined up in the slot against Cooper DeJean, who had some big plays today, Darius Slay. Again, yes, Cooper Rush is the quarterback, but this secondary is not getting beat deep. They're really not allowing much in front of them. They're just on total lockdown mode. I thought the 2 best players today, Gino, were guys that aren't really going to show up in the box score. In the secondary, it was Quinyon Mitchell, and up front, it was Jalen Carter. Your 2 pillars on defense, I thought, were your best players, and I think especially the secondary deserves the credit for this turnaround.
Tell me Jalen Carter wasn't made in a lab to play in this rivalry.
He's had so many games this year where the numbers don't look impressive, but he looked like the best player in the world. That was kind of the situation again today.
Early on to just get under their skin and make Dallas pissed off. That's exactly what you want.
That was funny, but
that's exactly what you want out of him. And there were moments where you're just like, yeah, this guy's the best player on this defense, bar none.
And I thought that about Q a lot of the time today, too.
I felt bad. Jalen Brooks, the kid he locked up multiple times, he was a CGS guy. That's a tough one for the brand. Yeah. But, hey, man, that was a really good cornerback on the outside. And he is, in my opinion, the number 1 right now. Darius Slay is in and out of the lineup. Isaiah Rodgers looks really good. Q is the number 1. But Cooper DeJean, once again, is showing that he was the missing piece. Because Cooper DeJean allows everybody's job to be that much easier. Zack Baun can be this chess piece.
Please pay that guy. Please pay that man.
Yesterday. Do not allow him to leave the building.
They better not.
In free agency, because somebody's going to give him a bag. You're probably going to get a team-friendly discount if you do it now, because if he goes to market and teams are able to bid on his services as a linebacker who could, he essentially seems to, evolve with every scheme that he is going to be in with the way he has been playing. He's a rush edge. There was one situation where he's in the A gap on that 4th and 1 quarterback sneak, which I don't know if I'm going to deploy him there, but he was all over the football field. Nakobe Dean, all over the football field. The tackling has been much better. Even though the run game for Dallas was the way they were gaining yards, I think the Eagles, the way they have fit the run since the bye week, it just looks so much better, where it looked like everything was out of sorts those first 4 weeks. They really weren't on the same page. Everybody is just falling into place and making plays. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, great 2022
That
pick.
was 2022 CGJ. That pick.
Reed Blankenship flying around. It's so fun to watch this.
I'm telling you, I think it's the improvement in the 2nd and 3rd level. Yeah, the defensive line, it's been great to see the improvement since the bye. And the Eagles having a good defensive line for years has always had this defense play at a certain floor. And, Bryce Huff with a great strip sack today with basically one hand battling. Love to see that. Brandon Graham gets a sack. As you mentioned, Jalen Carter dominated. But the difference between, why did 2022's defense look elite and last year's didn't, and now this one looks elite again? it's because of 3 players you added. It's the guys we were just talking about. It's Quinyon Mitchell, it's Cooper DeJean, and it's Zack Baun, right? I mean, I think that's what it is, and all 3 of them balled out again today. And DeJean, not just even on defense, that punt return in the second half, that's what really put the game on ice, in my opinion.
Poor Brayton Covey's not going to have a job.
I don't think he has a job to come back to.
I think Will Shipley as well as a kick returner is obviously the best option.
He had
there,
a couple nice
man.
plays,
And
yeah.
this defense just feels different. It feels like at any moment when they want to make a stop, they can. And I'm not just saying that. They've shown it at this point.
Because the average 40-yard dash speed isn't 5.2 like it was last year.
Another great point. James Bradbury is not out there walking.
They were just so
around in
slow
cement.
last year. They couldn't run with teams, man. Yeah.
I will say, arguably my favorite moment for this defense was after that Jalen Hurts fumble, where Dallas could have taken the lead in this game. They could have had the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush could have had the lead over a fully healthy Eagles team outside of Jordan Mailata. But the Eagles defense bend, do not freaking break, man. To cause a fumble on old man Elliott, guy's got to go. He
coming off a suspension.
Stinks.
Yeah, I can't believe
stinks.
he still plays.
Get him out of the league.
And that was from Baun. And you mentioned CGJ and his pick. CGJ hit really well today. He was in on that play. He had a huge hit stick, like the first play of the game. Chauncey, again, he looked like prime Chauncey today.
That hit where him and Baun forced that fumble, you know what that reminded me of, Lou?
What?
The Super Bowl play where you needed one defensive stop in that Kansas City game. He comes through the A gap, makes that play, and you and I kept saying, what was that missing piece on the Eagles defense last year? It was that spark, that guy to get him going. Dude, Chauncey out the first defensive play of the game, dude.
Set the tone.
Set the tone. He set the tone from the get-go. That was the moment where this Eagles defense said, we're going to power up this V8 engine, and we are going to steamroll this Dallas defense.
And that's so
they
important.
Didn't stand a chance.
It's so huge that Chauncey's now playing well on the field because his energy is so crucial for this defense. And Gino is getting nervous that, the last month, like pretty much the whole year, he hasn't tackled that well. I don't think he's made as many plays in coverage. Like, he wasn't awful, but he wasn't great like he was a few years ago. But you need that element that he brings. But he's got to prove it on the field to, maintain that role. And so it was really important that he had a game like he did today.
I think they made a conceded effort as a defense since the bye week to get better as a tackling football team because you could see the fundamentals. Like, they're shooting for the hip, like they're making sure, they're multiple hats on the ball. They're making sure they're rolling up. They're just following through. They're getting both hands around. They're
especially
doing
Coop,
a great
man.
job
Especially
in the fundamental.
Coop.
Dude, he
doesn't miss tackles. Just doesn't miss them.
I mean, is he?
CeeDee Lamb's in the open field.
What if we had a better second round pick, like in terms of instant impact?
I don't know. I mean, Zach Ertz. Do you have to go back that far?
A decade ago?
Yeah, probably. I mean, this was an absolute steal. The fact that this guy was not a first-round pick is unbelievable.
Shame on the teams around the NFL for letting him fall because you didn't know what to do.
I was going to say, as we said a few weeks ago,
the Eagles had him on CeeDee Lamb one-on-one in the slot at times. If you can't use a guy that can play to that caliber, my tiniest little violin feels so sorry.
I was going to say, the world's smallest violin's out because this guy, 2 games of the last 4, he's in the open field against Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, 2 of the league's best.
Yes,
and they can't
good players.
And they can't get around him. He is the most sound tackler maybe on the team.
Him, Baun, those guys do not miss tackles.
Quinyon doesn't miss tackles either. He had a couple nice hits today too.
Dude, the best tackling cornerback I've seen in a long time, just like regardless of who he plays for, man. Like that's some Jalen Ramsey type of play to your 6'1".
It's an underrated part of his ability that he's not getting enough credit for.
Oh, without a doubt, man. I mean, Fangio can't play the style that he wants to allow Quinyon to press if he wasn't that type of player.
Right.
And how smooth he is in coverage, like the turn and run ability, the play he had on Jalen Brooks on the sideline pass breakup. If you want to know what it is to defend a go route, to push a guy off of what is known as the red line, which is between the sideline and the numbers where you want to have your landmark as a wide receiver, Quinyon used his play strength to bully Jalen Brooks out of bounds, push him off of his red line, If Jalen Brooks is a yard more inside, that's probably a reception. But to use his full body, full extension, play through the hands, textbook. The kid is so good. Played out of the MAC. The kid is a Toledo Rocket and then some, dude. He's unbelievable.
I rewatched that snap probably like 15, 20 times.
It's textbook. I mean, like, that's what you learn, like, when you're like, oh, how do you scout a cornerback? How do you
I just love corner play, and that's
just
perfect. I just love corner play, and that was perfect. And the entire defense was. Again, they gave up a little bit on the ground early in the game, but this was almost as perfect a game as you can ask for a defense. And 34-6 is complete domination. The Eagles are now 7-2. They've won 5 straight. They head into a big Thursday night matchup, though, against the Washington Commanders. We'll get into that as we wrap up the Locked On Eagles postgame show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Locked On Eagles is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% of gourmet gift sides wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with the promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off, $30 off with the promo code NFL and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with the promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply.
And if you want to get some Omaha Steaks, maybe you can buy those Omaha Steaks with some of your winnings from FanDuel. So get ready to take on even more of the NFL action. The Eagles got a huge primetime Thursday night matchup coming up this week with the Washington Commanders. So right now, new customers, if you want to bet $5 on the Eagles to win against the Commanders, you can get $150 in bonus bets if you win, and hopefully the Eagles do win to maintain sole possession of first place. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get that hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same place where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today to join, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right, we're wrapping up the Locked On Eagles postgame show. 34-6, the final score. The Eagles blow out the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World, and again, they should do that against Cooper Rush, but it always feels good to almost end the Cowboys season. Jalen Hurts overcomes pressure, and the numbers look really good against pressure for Jalen. He was pressured on over half of his dropbacks against the Cowboys, 53.6% of the time. He finished 7 of 9 for 115 yards and those 2 touchdowns under pressure, a plus 27.2 completion percentage over expectation. Huge step. Again,
he was higher than what I said. Jeez.
Yeah, he was struggling early on against pressure, and then he just made Dallas pay for the disrespect. And that's huge because you didn't want it to snowball, Gino, because this is such a massive game coming up on Thursday night against Washington. Like, this is a win you obviously should have and took care of business, grabbed first place. But this is like the true test because I do think Washington is legit, even with the loss against Pittsburgh. And this will be the one I've been wanting to say for weeks. The Eagles are in that tier with Detroit. Maybe they're the team to beat in this conference, and I'm almost there. I just haven't got there quite yet. If they can win this game against the Commanders, I feel like I'm there. This is a big one coming up.
This is a game where Jalen Hurts, the more experienced quarterback, has to get the win. It's going to be tough, man. Washington is legit. They looked really good against Pittsburgh today, who is probably the toughest team that they have played so far.
Pittsburgh might be the most underrated team in football.
Yeah, in their own right, they're looking a lot better.
Give them credit.
The Eagles are going to have to play them in a couple weeks. That should be a really good test. Yeah. I was really nervous the way that this game started, and you and I had this discussion on Friday that if they start this game out and it is sloppy and they're looking past Dallas, all of a sudden Dallas is in this game, and then what happens if you lose? And now Washington. What if they won? Now you're down 2 games potentially in this division.
There would have been so
That would
much
be
pressure
horrific.
on this team. It could have snowballed, yeah.
And within 25 minutes of game time, quite literally, not even to the fourth quarter, like you got 3 minutes into the fourth quarter and all of your starters are out of the football game.
It was such a quick turnaround from what
you went
seemed
in
like
there
disaster.
like mercenaries. That's what it felt like today, Lou. Like they had a job. It was to get in and get out as soon as possible. The objective was to get a win against the Cowboys in dominating fashion, and they did that. They were able to rest their guys for Thursday, which is the test, and not even just the test. It is the moment. It's the moment of the season, because the way the pendulum can swing from Washington potentially being a game up on you in the division, or you potentially going 1.5, Washington still has to hit their bye, so you could potentially be up 2 games in no time with another outing against Washington at home. And this one's on a short week, Lou.
Yeah.
Thank goodness you got out healthy. Thank goodness you got the win. And thank goodness you did it in dominating fashion, to be honest, because it was a sketchy little back and forth for a little bit where Jalen's making some mistakes, but he settled down. He really turned into that mercenary towards the end of the game. He was pinpoint accurate at moments. Saquon Barkley wasn't his jump over somebody backwards self, but
no,
he had
Dallas did a good job
moment.
stacking the box. Dallas did a good job.
He had a really good moment on a little swing screen that was an outlet pass, and his last progression for Jalen Hurts, and he just makes Eric Kendricks and another defensive
ran
back
into each other.
for the Cowboys knock each other over and gets close to a really big first down. The wide receivers, number 1 and 2, looked solid. You didn't really need to pass that crazy in this game at moments. Jahan Dotson had his corner 3. Johnny Wilson, welcome to the NFL.
A play finally doesn't get called back for Johnny Wilson. Let's go.
I think it was Tommy Lawler. He said at one point after the Johnny Wilson special teams penalties, like, is Johnny Wilson the most flagged per?
Because he's just huge and doesn't know how to
guy.
use his body yet. He's just destroying people. But
It
he's
felt
just
like
too
every
physical.
snap the guy was getting a flag.
The minute I saw he caught the touchdown, I'm like, where's the? I'm like, there's a flag somewhere, and there wasn't one.
Big way to hit your big targets in the red zone, though, Lou. Like, that's really good stuff from Jalen
When plays
Hurts.
break down, those should be 2 guys you look for. Yeah, I agree.
Without a doubt, man. And I still don't think in the last 5 games we have given the defense enough credit. Like, they are historically good in
They're
these
playing
last 5
like
games.
a top 3. They might be the best defense in football since the bye week. I don't think that's
5 turnovers is a record. Tied for a record for the Philadelphia Eagles, Lou. That is an organization that's been around for over nearly 100 years at this point, man. Like, that is big time stuff. The ultimate winner, who has to be just sitting back with his grin that we all know he has, freaking Howie Roseman, dude. Like, does he look like the smartest GM in the room after all of these guys? The Georgia Bulldogs continue to look unbelievable. All the free agent acquisitions that we were talking about continue to look unbelievable. Jahan Dotson, he has continued to come into his own and look like that wide receiver 3 that you have been waiting for. And it's not just the top end picks. We're talking about Johnny Wilson looking good, Will Shipley looking good, even Bryce Huff, who the writing off of Bryce Huff, I think,
he's hurt.
He has a major hand injury.
On
man.
X again today, people are like, look, Jalix Hunt. I think it was Jeff McClain said the Eagles feel the same way about Bryce Huff as you do. Jalix Hunt is out snapping Huff in the first half. I'm like,
crazy.
He has one hand. I think he's been really good since the bye.
Dude, his strip
Did you see him move the tackle with one arm?
Dude, that strip sack is freaking... How he set that up was beautiful. He set up that outside move, stabbed that left foot, has that crossface swipe where he uses the guy's leverage against him and gets home to get to the football, but then he doubles that up with one of the most vicious inside spin moves, keeping his balance that you'll ever see to almost get a sack there on Trey Lance. And if that's Cooper Rush, he probably gets another sack. It just happened to be the guy who is just the running back who cosplaying as a quarterback at this point, I think.
I think people just didn't believe that Huff was hurt, maybe. I mean, did you not see the club on his hand? I don't know.
I don't know. But they look good all around, man. Not one player you can look at that is even like Jordan Davis doesn't show up, but everybody has a great game because he is just in the right spot all the time.
They just got to get that Anais Smith reverse to work eventually. Because they tried that again.
Okay, if there's one thing, he definitely is not playing at the speed of the rest of the guys on the roster. Like, he's not in that sixth gear where everybody else is at. That's the one thing where I'm like, I don't know about that. I mean, he did have a nice little pick up there with Kenny
it's fine.
Pickett.
It was a
blowout.
blowout. So.
Even we hit the Kenny Pickett tush push portion of this game. There's nothing you can nitpick. On the road, first win in Jerry World since 2017. That's a win that you can hang your hat on because they haven't come by a win in Jerry World in 7 seasons, man. So
7 years.
It does not matter who you play. And I don't want the quarterback of the opposing team discussion to really, you can't use that against the Eagles because there have been Eagles teams that have downright been bad against bad quarterbacks.
And you can't use it against Jalen Hurts specifically. And that, again, is where like the biggest win from today was seeing what Jalen was able to do against in a situation where normally he does not perform very well. So I think, obviously this win doesn't say, see, this is why they're the team to beat in the NFC. They're even better than the Lions. Like, I'm not going to make that statement on the show because of this win.
Helps it for sure.
But you dominated a bad team. Mm-hmm. And Jalen Hurts, again, battled through, I think, his biggest Achilles heel before the biggest game of the season. So for that reason, I think this is an important win.
This was one of those games I was talking about that if we can continue this stretch, it's so reminiscent of 2017, that one window where you were going on that streak of the last time I was at the link against the Chicago Bears where you whooped their rear end and then you whooped the Denver Broncos. This is getting into that portion.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the win streak from last year where you're just limping through every win.
Now you got a real chance to get into that conversation that Lou is talking about, to say, okay, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles, we rode off a little bit too quickly. And I think we have to give one guy credit that we really haven't talked about all day. Nick Sirianni really has got this team on track, and it was always the 53 guys that had to buy in. And what we say in the media really doesn't matter. And the guys have turned it around since the bye week because of Nick and company. So that's
you got to give him credit. Last week, I think he was the main reason the Eagles didn't put Jacksonville away early, and he had another opportunity against an inferior team, and you're struggling early to put it away and not play with your food, and they figured it out. So that's also a good win as well. 34-6 the final score. The Eagles are 7-2. They have won 5 straight with a big one coming up Thursday Night Football against the Washington Commanders. We'll get you covered for that matchup Monday through Thursday, and then we got you after as well. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Again, 34-6 the final score for Gino Camilleri. I'm Lou DiBiase signing off. Thanks as always for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.